Welcome. Glad to see that you're back, wanting to listen to some of the things I want to share that are on my heart. This is the Lovers of God series, and my name is Paul Breathen. The last video we were talking about pretty much just how does one deal with sin? How does one deal with the things in one's life that seems to take control over us, seems to have a power over us that we can't somehow resist. And I mentioned that often in religion, in all religions, that the goal is to build some kind of inner strength, to become strong enough to resist temptation, strong enough to say no, strong enough to kind of turn away. And it's in that kind of perspective just doesn't work. It never has, and it never will. And that what really works, when it comes to dealing with the sin of our life, is to have enough joy, to be happy enough and joyful enough to not want it. And this is what the Father brings to us in the intimacy with Him, is the sense of fullness, to where you no longer have the thirst or the hunger to want to have anything other than Him. So you're filled up, and when you're filled up, then you're free to not want to have any desires for things of the world to fill up that void that only God the Father Himself can fill up. And that's the secret. It's the secret to overcoming sin. So I want to take that idea a little bit further, and well, then how does that affect relationships? All relationships, whether it's with the Father, towards a loved one, towards family, towards your neighbor, even towards yourself. And it's the key, it's the profound key of freedom and deliverance, is the soul coming to a place of wholeness and completeness. For out of wholeness and completeness are you then truly able to love someone else, to love yourself, to love the Father. And that's the gift of salvation. That is what Jesus came to bring, is that freedom to love. Now remember, according to the paradigm relationship, is that love is the ability to connect. And when you look at, well, what is it that hinders connection? The problem isn't so much love in the term that we use it and think about love. The problem is within the soul itself. And when you break the soul down to the heart, the mind, and the will, then this is where you begin to see the problem. It's funny that in the Bible, both the Old Testament and New Testament, the heart is often brought up a lot. In fact, God was really kind of frustrated with Israel, trying to bring them into this new way of living and thinking and having a perception about what it means to be in relationship with the Father, with God, and with the nation as a whole. And after a while of keeping the laws and doing the right things, there was a problem that arose that God addressed. And it had to do, He says, you worship me with your lips, but your heart is far from me. It's almost like He's saying, look, keep your sacrifices. Don't come before me, with just lip service. If your heart is not in it, then it has no value. And so there is something about the heart that God was trying to gain. In fact, He talks about our heart that become like stone. He wants to make it flesh. He wants to come alive. He wants to be real. And so the heart, remember, is the voice of the soul, speaking its desires, its passions, its longings. It's like there's something about the heart that holds the riches, of love, the riches of the soul. The soul has a treasure that the Father is after, and the treasure is our ability and capacity to give our passion, our longing, our the things that are incredibly valuable with love. This desire that has incredible emotions with it, and feelings, and if you don't have a person's heart, then you really don't have their love. And this is something that I think even in our relationships with one another, that especially in a loving relationship of a marriage, or boyfriend, girlfriend, or some kind of relationship where we're all looking for the sense of love, being loved and loving, giving love, receiving love and giving love. And if you find that the heart is absent, then it seems like everything else is meaninless. It doesn't have the kind of richness and value that love holds without heart. It's kind of like going through the motions. There's no depth. There's no richness. In fact, often, we're in relationships where we lose heart, and it's like you no longer care. It's like you no longer want to be close to one another, or to touch one another, or to experience one another. That connection, that union, which is really what love is like absent. It's like the wall goes up. We talk about the wall going up, and you feel the disconnect, and it creates pain. It creates fear. It creates a sense of like loss. So, in my relationships that I've experienced, it was always seemed to be the issue is like, well, where's the heart? How do I get to the heart? How do I get to the intimacy of the soul, like the soul connection? And without the heart, you can't have the soul connection, because it's like the heart is the gateway into the person's authentic self. And so I find that, the thing that helped me to have soul and heart connection, like with my wife, was the idea of my own heart having to be healed, having to be made full. Because when it was healed and made full, now I was willing. I was now a vessel that was willing and able to open up so that I can experience that connection. So it wasn't the other person necessarily that had the problem. It was me. I was the one that had the problem. I was the one that was like guarded and closed off. And though I thought I wasn't, but I was blinded to that until the Father came and exposed those areas of my heart that were wounded, that I needed to let go of, and the fears and the shame and the self-contempt and those things that he finally came to heal. Was there this mysterious event that took place, that when your heart is open and you're transparent and people can see that you're real, it creates this magical moment where they feel safe. They feel somehow safe to come out themselves, to be open, to take a risk, to be authentic. And out of that authentic interaction, there's connection. This is what love is, the ability to connect. And of course, with that comes the pleasure and the joy and the happiness and the sense of like, we're like on the same track. We're in the same place. There's this emotional bonding, this union that takes place. And it was interesting because there was a point in my life where several years ago, after I had the encounter with the Father, and I kind of went through many years of this cutting and breaking and molding and healing in this journey, that when my heart was finally available and it was open, my experiences with other people began to be different. It's like it drew them in, and especially if I was dating women or if I was involved in a relationship, I realized that I had a gift of sharing my soul, and that I had to be careful not to just squander it, but to kind of guard it, in the sense of not just allow my presence to control a situation, to manipulate a situation, to capitalize on people's willingness to come close, that I could easily manipulate. This is a way of abusing this gift of closeness. I had to take care of my heart in the same way, respecting, take care of their heart. If they're opening their heart up to me, I need to care for that. I need to protect that. See, this is the way of love. This is the Father's love. And so, quickly, a person that I cared about, felt that, and it was a powerful experience. They sensed it. So they may not know what to say, but when they came close, and even physically close, so a hug became more than just a hug. It became an overwhelming sense of warmth and pleasure and security. And so they're experiencing my soul openness, my heart's openness. And it can be intoxicating. So I had to be careful with that, but to nurture that and not use it to take advantage of a woman or to abuse that in any way. So when I met Teddy and we began to have a relationship, there was this immediate connection. She was open to my heart, and her heart was open to me, and this union, this connection was so strong, and it was beautiful. And now we've known each other for 7 years, and that connection has never been broken. It's consistent. It's like a seal. It's like it's there, and it's like a river that flows, continues to flow in overwhelming ways of tenderness and gratitude and closeness and beauty and joy and peace. It's not a struggle. There's no striving. There's no threat. There's no fears. There's no anguish or shame or self-contempt or anger. It's just this beautiful, joyful relationship that is steady. It's consistent. It's what we all long for. And that could not have happened until the Father came and healed my soul and filled me up. And this is what we have to offer as Christians. Coming into the intimacy of the Father, it affects not just your relationship with Him, but everyone else in relationship to you and even to yourself. People that know us, they kind of envy our relationship, and some are doubtful, wondering, well, this can't last this long, and it's not really genuine, they're not being authentic, because how could they have so much, all marriages and relationships are struggles, and we have to work really hard at it. And for us, it isn't work. It's just a pleasure. It's just a pleasure of being together, accepting one another, loving one another, and it's that bonding that came because the soul is always open. So that requires you to love with all of your heart, all of your soul, all of your mind, and of course all of your will, your strength. When those are dealt with, then you have this beautiful, dynamic connection that stays, it's consistent. Same with the Father, with those that you love, and those that love you. And of course, when this connection occurs, Jesus said something quite dramatic when it came to not only loving one another and loving your brother and sister, but even loving your enemy. And I think this is something I could talk about further on, but there's a powerful effect that can have on a person's life when this connection is there and you begin to love even your enemy, and how love can overcome evil, can overcome an enemy's hard heart. So, if you have questions, please send me a note, and I can address that perhaps. Any ideas? If you find this helpful, share it, like the page, and we can move on with these videos. Until next time.